is Matt Harris, founder of Harris Webworks and launching a new brand called Verado, which is going to be about thought leadership around digital transformation, some training, but mostly just events and content around digital transformation. But Harris Webworks is the service company. Verado is going to be the events and thought leadership company. Today we wanted to talk about digital transformation, and it's a word that gets some people hate it, and they think it kind of under describes and is probably overemphasizing the digital component. I have the screen up right now, says it's really just business evolution, which is what I believe, but we don't have a better term for it. What I wanted to do today was talk about the history of business. So right now on my screen is a slide that shows the four generations of business transformation and evolution. So this goes back 250 years, and we're in Industry 4.0 now, but it goes back to the 1700s, which was mechanization, steam power, and like weaving and looms. And since then, the four generations are mass production, assembly line, and electrical energy, which was the late 1800s. And then 1969, you have the introduction of computers, transistors, and electronics. That's your Industry 3.0. And Industry 4.0 is where we are today, which is cyber physical systems, the Internet of Things, being able to communicate and purchase things quickly globally. So we're in 4.0 now. Since the transistor was created, which is 1947. So if you just look at, Industry 4.0, according to this graphic, is 1969. That's when probably is more realistic, like electronics and transistors were being used in business, even though, technically the transistor was invented in 1947. It really didn't start to have major impacts until the 1960s. If you look at the evolution of business and communications and technology since 1970, it has been dramatic and fast. So if you go back the 250 years of the evolution of business, if you go back to the four generations of business, you're looking at 250 years. In the last 50, the rate of change has been dramatic. So you're having almost comparatively like exponentially faster change. And the transformation component and the digital transformation component, the reason it's important and relevant for businesses to think about today is because the rate of change is so fast. So within a generation now of business ownership, which I usually peg a generation as being 30 years, since the transistor, we've had maybe 2, maybe coming on 3 generations. And within each one of those generations, you're going to have to rethink and retool the way your business functions if you're going to stay current. So it means if you just look at the transformation of businesses in the last 100 years from, Main Street, you've got markets on Main Street, town centers, markets in town centers, to the evolution of the suburbs. And then you've got the strip malls and the malls. And then you've got the evolution of the big box stores. And then you've got the internet and Amazon and buying and selling online. Now the big box stores are declining. The malls are declining. The Main Street businesses have been transforming themselves. And now with the latest phase where people started working from home because of COVID, you've got offices closing down, people changing the way they work. So the habits of human beings and the way that they purchase and the way they interact with businesses is always changing, and it has changed. It just happens to be changing faster than it typically did 250 years ago. So this creates a challenge for a business. How do you stay current? You know things are going to change. That's the given. So the transformation part, the evolution part is the given. I don't think you can argue anymore that the way that we've always done business is going to continue to work. Businesses that say that to themselves are going to have a higher fail rate than businesses that are looking at ways to constantly improve. So the transformation part, the digital transformation part, is really a mindset of taking the technologies that exist, applying them methodically to my business, and getting into the mindset that your business is actually something that is in a state of constant evolution instead of a static state of something that you physically built. And part of the problem is this next screen, I have an AI-generated image of an octopus, which is kind of my funny way of describing what I think is the new mindset of digital transformation and transformative businesses, is that your business is less like a machine. You need to think of it less like a machine and more like a digital organism. Most of our metaphors for business are mechanical. We talk about the gears of business. We talk about business as a machine. That is not really the equivalent to what we're experiencing now. What we're experiencing now is that businesses are data-driven. AI is going to dramatically change how businesses work and all components of, I think, not just the supply chain, but the way workforces interact with businesses, the value of work. AI is going to transform all of that. So your business is really a digital organism that's leveraging technology and AI to make itself smarter. And it's evolving in a way where it's looking for opportunities that didn't exist, but they exist now. So when people started working from home, that was disruptive. It was also an opportunity. Businesses that looked at that as an opportunity made money. When businesses left Main Street and the suburbs came to be and evolved, that was disruptive. Some businesses suffered. Smart businesses took advantage of that and saw it as an opportunity. So this continues. So you need to be poised to jump on opportunities, but you also need to create a mindset of using digital technologies to assess opportunities and also to assess areas that might need to be pruned. So your business is like an organism. It's like a tree. The healthiest branches are going to generate the most energy for that organism, and some of the branches are going to need to be pruned off. And that's what you need to think about. But you need to create a methodology of constant improvement that's looking at that on a quarterly, annual basis. So it's not build it once and maximize the value of that. It's build it once and then iterate and continue to improve and evolve and grow. That should be the mindset of a modern business. Now, this is all happening. The next slide I'm showing is actually a graph of the generations. So if you can imagine that we have AI coming on, you have digital transformation, you have the Industry 4.0, so connected businesses on the internet. You have the rapid change that's happened in the last 60 years, which I described before. That's happening at the same time that we're having a massive generational shift in businesses, in business ownership, the people that work in those businesses and run and manage those businesses. The baby boomer generation was the biggest generation in the history of the country. We're talking the United States here, but there's parallels in Europe and elsewhere in the world, frankly. But in the United States, that was our biggest generation. The only generation bigger than that is the millennials. The baby boomer generation is peaking. The peak is about 67 years old. So the baby boomer generation is retiring, and it's happening fast, which means that the Generation X between the millennials and the boomers are going to be moving into those roles. Generation X kind of saw the transformation. There was no internet when the Generation X was children, and then it became a reality when they entered the workforce. The millennials are digital natives. They have never lived in a world without computers, without the internet, without shopping online. Most of them don't know a world without cell phones. So that reality of a millennial, which is a massive generation, the way they think about acquiring products, interacting with businesses, their expectations are totally different than boomers and even Generation X. So, and they're moving into a position of eventually control and ownership and management of businesses throughout the country. That is going to create a disruption. That, with the technological advancements and AI, is going to create a massive disruption. There are, with every disruption, massive opportunities. So the businesses that think about their customer base as being primarily millennials, they are going to be future-proof. They are going to be poised and ready for the next generation of buyers. Businesses that think like boomers are going to suffer. So part of this technological evolution and revolution is a generational revolution. And that is where the businesses need to think and how they need to address their business plans. So the next slide I have is basically showing the workforce right now. The boomers are 18% of the workforce as of 2020. That's declining rapidly. Generation X is 34%. The millennials are 34%, and the millennials are 38%, excuse me. So the millennials are already bigger than Generation X in the workforce. They are going to have a massive impact. Generation X is going to have the opportunity to be in management positions in the next 10 years. If they're not already, I think they should be already. They need to think about the millennials as their customers. Basically, what I'm talking about in a practical sense is essentially the way people previously purchased. So in my world with Harris WebWorks, we build e-commerce systems for mid-market businesses selling B2B primarily. Some are selling B2C, but they were manufacturers to begin with, so they're manufacturers going direct. Some are wholesale and distribution companies that are changing their model and trying to sell more online through portals. Right now I have a slide up of product catalogs, printed product catalogs. This might surprise any millennial listening to this, but people are still purchasing that way. They're still shipping out print catalogs. Buyers are still looking through the print catalogs, running their finger down the list of products, finding the one that has the right attributes, and calling somebody up on the phone and ordering that product. It still happens today. And the reason is some of the older buyers want it. Those are declining rapidly. But the big reason is those businesses do not know how to present their business data online. There's a block. They cannot get through the older business systems that they had created to print these catalogs and then taking that exact same product data and presenting it on a website where it's searchable, sortable, and filterable quickly and easily. That if you're working on an on-prem system where you're doing print catalogs and you're trying to go into a cloud-based e-commerce system, there could be a technological gap there that you have to get over. It's a hurdle. A lot of businesses haven't done that yet. More than I think you might know or think. we personally worked with businesses and have made that leap, but it's not an easy thing to overcome. It takes a big effort, but once you're there, your business is future-proof. So imagine you had an on-prem ERP system that's generating print catalogs through an on-prem database. Now you want to take that same thing and sell on Home Depot, Lowe's, Supply House, Amazon, your own websites. You want to build a website just for your B2B buyers. You want to build a buyer portal. To get that data prepared and to get the order flow that's coming back from those other markets into your system, it's going to be a massive challenge with an older, outdated 30-year-old ERP system. You need to upgrade to a modern ERP system. The reporting on those ERP transformations for businesses like that is scary. 65% of those ERP transformations fail. And sometimes those failures can be catastrophic for the business. So part of what we're doing here, part of this podcast, and part of what I'm creating Verado as a brand is to build thought leadership around these transformations so that they minimize the amount of disruption to that business and the destructive potential of that transformation, which is a risk. The successful businesses are the ones that do it with an emphasis on planning and an emphasis on applying internal stakeholders to those projects, committing internal stakeholders to those projects, and partnership. You need to bring in experts on whatever platform you're replatforming to and go through a thorough discovery and a thorough business rules assessment. And you want to come out the other end of that planning process with a very detailed plan. And then you need to work in an agile fashion with that company because no matter how perfect your discovery process is and your planning process is, things will come up and you'll need to pivot and change and adapt as you go through the process. For a medium-sized business, that kind of project can take minimum typically 6 months, and it can go 2 years, it could go 3 years. So this is something that businesses will need to take seriously. They'll need to invest in it, but they also need to realize that this could be the difference between them surviving for the next 20 years and not. Because we can't just keep selling products on print catalogs anymore. That won't work. We can't keep running our businesses on 30-year-old ERP systems. That's not going to work. Industry 4.0 is where we're at now. We're quickly getting to industry, what I would want to call 4.5. We're going to be leveraging machine learning and AI to modernize our businesses. If you aren't fully 4.0 compliant, if you don't have your product data in a cloud-based ERP system, if you're not leveraging best-in-class CRM systems like Salesforce, if you don't have a durable and thoughtful customer retention strategy, your business is going to suffer. But not only that, you will not be able to maximize probably the most powerful tool that we've ever come up with, which is AI. AI needs data in order to make it smarter and in order for it to help your business. So you need to feed it with data. And the businesses that are still behind closed doors on an on-prem system are going to have a really hard time doing that. It's not impossible, but they won't be able to do it as effectively and as fast as other businesses. So that's just in a nutshell. Digital transformation might be a little bit scary, but I also think that it's something that people need to think about and apply their resources internally to the planning process, and they need to engage with other companies that have done that. Essentially, get out of your bubble. People have grown up in businesses and they know their businesses really well, and there's an incredible amount of value in that. But you need to get outside of that business and look at what's happening in the rest of the ecosystem, with the rest of the world, with the rest of the businesses, what technology is doing and strategies are doing to transform businesses. So that's kind of what Verado is. Verado is essentially, let's get the best case studies out there and let's make them public. Let's let people listen to those stories. The stories are how we learn. The success stories are how we learn. Our own personal failure stories are how we learn. But there's a lot of knowledge to be had. And I think all ships can rise when we learn from each other. And I think there's a real power in partnership. So businesses need to understand that the technology is moving and evolving so fast that it is really hard for a mid-market business to keep all of that expertise under their own roof. You're going to have a really hard time staffing people with all of these different specializations. So you need to open yourself up to the concept, if you haven't already, of partnering with other service companies. And the digital service companies that are out there that might be listening to this, I think the value of your work, of our work, is just going to increase. But the agencies are going to have to also know what they do and what they can do well, and they need to serve their clients honestly, and essentially pick the lanes in which they can be the most effective, and not just sell any service to any client. And there's been a lot of that in the last 30 years. So it's a little bit on that. But anyway, that's my first run at a podcast about digital transformation. There'll be more to come. Hopefully I did a decent job explaining Verado. And look for more talks, interviews, and explainer videos coming up. Yeah, this is, again, Matt Harris. The agency I run is called Harris WebWorks. And the events and thought leadership business is called Verado. We have an event coming up in Connecticut where we're located just outside of New Haven, Connecticut. In June, there'll be more information about that.